Good afternoon. Today I will be interviewing Coral Cohen. Coral Cohen is the enforcement manager for the Allentown Parking Authority. Coral has been managing people for a handful of years now, and she's going to join me for the third interview for this assignment. Coral, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Samuel.
So, we're going to start with some questions on your leadership philosophy and your style. So, in a few words, how would you describe your leadership style at the parking authority?
I would say that my leadership style is really just like leading the next group to, you're kind of trying to like lead someone to take your position. So if I ended up leaving, someone to be prepared to step into my shoes.
I see. So has that always been your philosophy on leadership, or has that sort of evolved as you've been a supervisor for the last handful of years here?
It definitely evolved and every day is different. Obviously, you still have like the managing aspect of like hiring, firing, anything of that. Um, but when it comes to like really investing time, it became evident that it was super important to try to grow these officers or individuals to start leading.
I see. And is there a particular person or event or experience that's kind of influenced how you lead your direct reports at the authority?
Yeah, I would definitely say the deputy director at the parking authority, his name is Osvaldo. He was definitely my mentor throughout my whole employment. Um, and definitely like again, kind of what I aspire to be, but like led me to grow into the position that I'm in now.
I see. And so when your team is in a pressure situation or when you're shorthanded, you have call outs, what's the approach that you take to support your team during those times where there's stress on the team and there's pressure on the team?
I'm definitely very hands-on, so I know sometimes as a manager, they kind of just oversee things. That's not really my thing. So if there's ever a problem or not enough people, I step in where I can to help out. And a lot of it is just like puzzle pieces. So just making sure to like put different people doing different things to make sure everything's covered.
I see. So moving now on to communication and decision making, which obviously is a big part of your role as the enforcement manager. Um, so first of all, how are you at a high level making decisions? Are you balancing input with the team, or are you kind of making decisions that you think are best for the department based on your couple years of experience now, or is it sort of a combination of both?
I'd say it's definitely a combination of both, and it depends what's going on. So if there's like a big change, I'll definitely ask for input of my team. If it's something like discipline related or anything like that, I obviously speak to HR and we kind of make those decisions together. Um, but if it's something that's going to affect my whole team, I try to get their input if I can. If not, I just make those day-to-day decisions on my own.
And how many people are currently on your team again?
So I have 54 officers, I have 12 supervisors, and 4 dispatchers. So I
And are
manage that
mm,
whole thing.
And are all those people reporting directly into you, or do you have people that are helping you manage that entire department?
Yeah, it's kind of a chain of command. So it's our officers, then we have our officers and dispatchers, then it's our supervisors. I have an assistant manager, and then it's me.
I see. Okay. So you have people to help you there. So how are you leveraging the support that you have on your team to communicate and make decisions? Do you delegate certain responsibilities to the people that are on your team, or how do you kind of manage that when you have such a large department?
Yeah, absolutely. Delegation is vital because there's so much things that we're doing. We're also a 24-hour operation, so there's
Mm,
certain times that certain people need to do things, and also certain times that I'm not in the office. So really, it's a lot of delegating certain tasks. Every supervisor has a certain set of tasks that they're in charge of. However, they're all trained on doing everything just in case, like you said before, if someone called out or something like that, we kind of have that coverage.
I see. So you're sort of your team is equipped to do multiple different functions. It's not like this person does this, this person does this. You have them trained that they can cover when the time calls. That's good.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
okay. And I guess obviously when you're a manager, you have difficult decisions and difficult conversations when it comes to um, people's feelings and how people feel. Can you talk about a situation where that you can think of where you had a particularly tough decision that you had to make or a conversation you had to have with an employee because they weren't performing at the level you would expect someone to perform at?
Yeah, definitely. Like, especially in our positions, we're right in the public's eye, so everything they can see. There was a time where I had an officer do some unfortunate gestures to people of city council.
Hmm,
And that's the type of thing that we had to step in right away. And it wasn't the type of thing that I could have a supervisor take care of. I had to go in immediately and try to de-escalate that situation. So I had gone to the scene where it had happened. We actually got a phone call from one of the members of city council. I got there, I spoke to them. It was a bit of a misunderstanding, and we did have to part ways with that officer as well.
okay, that's what my follow-up was going to be. Was there disciplinary action taken and it
Yeah.
resulted in termination? And that's interesting that you say that because where you're in the public's eye, you know, my experience is in private sector. If something like that were to happen within my office, maybe we could handle it internally. But when
Mhm.
you're dealing with other public sectors and just your officers are out in public in general, you have to worry about that aspect of things.
Yeah, we also have like policies of ways that you should act out in the public. So it's definitely like violated those policies, and it was the type of thing where first time of doing something like that is termination.
100%. And the last question I have regarding communication with your team, do you give feedback to your employees in general? Do you have some sort of cadence that you have evaluations with them, or how do you, I guess, support that aspect of development?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you first start as a supervisor, as an officer or anything, you get a 30, 60, 90-day review, and then you
Mm,
get a 6-month review. And then every year we do annual evals. Outside of that, I like to touch base with the supervisors that I have. So I do one-on-ones with them, and we do it monthly. My assistant manager, we have one-on-ones every day. But as far as the supervisors, we at least are able to meet with them one-on-one monthly to get their ideas, any sort of issues or questions they might have, concerns, anything of that. And it's kind of the way to like have some camaraderie between us as well.
I see. Okay. And kind of segueing into that, obviously, as a manager, you have people on your team that are looking to advance their career. I'm sure you have a mix of people that are content where they're at, but you also have people that are looking to actually advance their career, whether that's within your department or within, you know, the public sector in general. What's your philosophy on developing team members' careers? Do they come to you and ask for help into it, you know, to advance their careers? And how do you handle that in your department?
Yeah, absolutely. I think success is succession. So, after like we've had a lot of officers that have become border patrol agents, police officers, anything of that sort. When they come on, they let us know, hey, this is my goal, this is where I want to be, and we try to do anything that we can to help them. We also give them feedback all the time. So if it's something where they could have done it a different way, we're like, hey, heads up, at the police academy, they won't like it when you do it like this. So just if that's your goal. But it's always nice to see them grow. I also have a lot of supervisors who want to grow within the organization. So, I mean, I started off as an officer. I was promoted to supervisor, training supervisor, assistant manager, now manager. So there's a lot of growth within the department, even outside of the department if it's not there in the department at the time that they want it.
And as you just mentioned, you've been developed and advanced through the organization, so you have that perspective for, you know, if there's somebody else within your org that wants to develop, you've been through that and you know what it takes.
Yeah, absolutely. And the good thing about the organization too is we don't just promote, like we only promote from within. So if there's
Hmm,
a supervisor role available, there's almost a 0% chance we would go from outside the organization.
I see. That's awesome. I think that also is like a morale thing for your team. I mean, we do the same thing in my organization. When you can promote from within, it sort of inspires your you know, intrinsic motivation of your team.
Yeah.
Um, and the final question I would have on development and performance, do you guys have any reward system in place to recognize officers and supervisors who are performing at a high level?
Yeah, absolutely. We have employee of the quarter. So
Nice.
every quarter, everyone can vote. And then we also do positive note files. So kind of like it's the same kind of form as discipline, but instead it's like positive recognition. And then those are announced in our monthly newsletters as well. So kind of like an employee highlight of letting you know, like, hey, this person helped an elderly gentleman walk in the crosswalk or bring his groceries up to his house or something like that. So we definitely shout them out whenever we can.
That's good. And do you think that's an effective tool for kind of motivating and reinforcing positive behavior within the team?
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't always that way. It's something that I kind of developed on the team. But I think it's helped a lot and it's been a motivator. And now, like, people want to be recognized, so
Hmm.
they want to do more. And I think it's definitely helped a lot.
That's awesome. Yeah. Um, so moving on to accountability and sort of your own way of leading. Every leader has made mistakes throughout their career. How do you handle mistakes for decisions that you make and also for, on behalf of the team when one of your supervisors makes a mistake that ultimately reports into you? How do you handle that situation?
Yeah, I mean, accountability is huge. I hate making mistakes, but if I do, I obviously want to grow. So there was a time like we have like policy set in stone for everything. So I got into a little bit of a fender bender, and there's certain rules that we have to go through. We have to get drug tested, we have to get retrained, everything like that. So instead of keeping it quiet, I let my officers know as I have to do the same thing. They hate when they have to do it, but I kind of showed them, hey, it's not just you guys being held to these standards. We're all being held to these standards. And they were actually really happy to see that, not that it happened, but that I had to do the same thing. As far as my team, I mean, if they mess up, I talk to them. We give them training if they need. I'll walk them through their mistake or a better decision they could have made. I'm not one to like yell at them or anything like that. We're really just trying to build them up and not tear them down.
Sure. And what you said in the first part of that answer, I think, is important as a leader. When you make mistakes, holding yourself accountable is definitely a good way to show your team that, like, hey, I'm not above anything here. The policies apply to everybody, and I'm holding myself accountable in that position. And I'm sure they appreciated that, and that sent a message, a positive perception of yourself to the rest of your team.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so another question I would have on accountability. Um, Do you ever adjust your leadership approach for specific people, based on kind of how you know personally they are going to respond to a decision that you're making?
Yeah, every person I talk to differently, I train them differently. Some people are very hands-on, some people can just see something and do it. Everyone's completely different. So it's really evolving your leadership style to match their learning style.
Hmm.
Um, so again, even with talking to people, sometimes you can say something a million times to one person, but they won't understand until you show it to them.
I see. And that's good leadership that we talked, one of the concepts we talked about in our class was that leadership is so individual for every leader, but also for the people that you're leading. It's such an individualized approach is often required. So it's good to hear that you're embodying that. The final question I would have for you is relating to power. So you're obviously relatively young, for your position, and you're leading a very large department. I guess what would you say how would you say you draw the most legitimate way of having power over your team, because ultimately you're calling the shots, you're making decisions. You don't have 40 years of experience. So what would you say gives you the most clout, for lack of a better term, in your position, and how do you leverage that?
I would say definitely the respect that I have from everybody.
Hmm.
So I think a lot of it was that even though I was promoted into these high title positions, I was still doing stuff that people at the entry level were doing. Just to show them that like kind of like paint a picture of like, hey, this is where you can be. But also that it doesn't just stop. So even if you're a supervisor, you're still doing things that an officer might do. As a manager, it's not too much like that, but I still like to go out and have them hear me on the radio and see me doing different things as well. And I think that definitely helps a lot too.
Gotcha. Well, Coral, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time to be interviewed tonight. Thank you for all of your thoughtful responses.